Namaste, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. We are live again, simulcasting on Facebook and Rumble and YouTube. This is Dr. Danny, physician astrologer. Welcome new subscribers, welcome old subscribers, and shout out to the channel members. We have a wonderful guest today. I'm super excited to bring her to the stage to talk about what she does. This is kind of a series that's been developing organically for me. Pulling back the curtain, talking to modern magicians that are using esoteric knowledge to help people, waking up in physical form to the majesty of your spirit and as a creator, literally can be very jarring for a soul. When you wake up while you're still physical. And a lot of magicians are coming online. And as the years go by, they're younger and younger. And Rio is an amazing young woman. She has an ancient soul. She has been vibed into this esoteric study for years and has a lifetimes of knowledge and experience, and has been offering her time, her knowledge, to the inaugural group of stellar foundations. And I couldn't be more grateful to have her spirit on board with that, because she's been talking to the students and having separate breakout sessions with them, helping them build their confidence, kind of doing it like just out of the goodness of her heart. And she's also on the ground floor of the International Society for Sidereal Astrologers. This is a new 501c or whatever nonprofit organization that's being developed for those that study sidereal astrology, constellational, Vedic, and all of the above. So, Rio has a great program coming out. I will let her talk about it, but I wanted to just give you an introduction on this amazing conversation we're about to have. I'm sure after we talk a little bit about Rio, we're going to get into some of the astrology. She has some very unique insights onto this particular Mars and Pluto opposition, which on this coming new moon is going to be in a T-square with the new moon and black moon Lilith. So this should be a fantastic discussion. So without further ado, I'm going to bring out Rio Larmand, a modern magician. Welcome, Rio. Hello.
Hello, how's it going?
Pretty good. I hear you pretty good. If those of you listening, if you could tell me if our sound is at least equal. I don't
Oh,
want
it's
to overshadow.
now?
Yeah, I don't want to overshadow you. My mic is really, really fantastic. So
Okay.
so we'll see what the feedback is. But welcome. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited you're here.
Yeah, thanks
I
for
should have
having me
invited
on.
you. I know you asked me to come, and I was going to invite you like in a month or so anyway, just
Mhm.
because of the project that we're going to do over the summer. You and I are going to do an advanced class on predictions techniques. Rio has experience in perfections, and I've got experience with financial astrology. So we're going to pull all that together and offer an advanced summer school class. So anyway, Rio, tell everybody about yourself, what you do, and who you are. And
Well, I am Rio. I'm an astrologer. I am an artist as well. I've been making a true sidereal calendar for going on 4 years now. This last year, we put together, we being the group of me, myself, and I, put together a planner that people have been asking me for some time, and that was a really fun project. And yeah, I consider myself mostly a transits reader. I love to be as helpful as I can to people in the moment. And I find that the best way that I can do that is by looking at, what's happening to them right now, right?
Mhm.
I like to say that I don't particularly like to be in the business of telling people who they are. And I'm really, I don't know, I've been thinking a lot lately about how astrology can be its most useful. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's a little bit about me anyhow. In the way of magician, I guess I've been doing magic for pretty much as long as I can remember. And yeah,
How old are you, Rio?
I am 34, about to turn 35.
Okay. Yeah. I knew you were young, but I wasn't sure if you were in your 20s or 30s, but wow, man. I think back to when I was 34 and I was just finishing medical school,
Hmm.
and it was like a dream of mine. But I wasn't I'd always had like a little bit of magical thinking, but being so like indoctrinated in that system, it was,
Mm.
I was not as in touch as you are. And so I'm really excited to see like what you develop in the coming years. I feel like you're on an upward trajectory that is nonstop with all the work that you're doing. Tell
I
us
hope
about
so.
your new program, how you see it kind of
Yeah.
fitting in with the larger picture.
Yeah, so my new program is called Adept, and the idea is that there's all sorts of astrology classes out there that will tell you the basics of like this is what the planets are, and this is what the signs are, and blibbity blobbity. Literally, you could read about it for like probably your entire lifetime and not run out of books for it, right?
Mhm.
If you're interested in that, go check out Stellar Foundations because Dr. Danny is actually doing something somewhat different in that area, which I think is really cool. But I, I took a lot of astrology classes, and the one that really helped me and helped me gain confidence and make it feel like I could actually read for people was the one where we spent most of our time actually practicing.
Mhm.
And so I would like to pay that sort of tradition forward. And I like to, it's usually like rather uncomfortable for the first 5 minutes when everyone's like, what? You're going to actually make me do this? I'm not ready. And then by the end of the class, they're like, oh, wow, I actually know way more than I think I do. And, everyone's just vibing. And I actually come from an art school background. And in art school, we put all of our paintings up on a wall and we walk around and we tell people what we think, right? We call them crits. They are somewhat uncomfortable sometimes, but I figure if we can have like that level of, accountability in art school, which let's be honest is like pretty low stakes, then we should at least be able to have like safe, low stakes environments where we can get real one-on-one feedback from people who, haven't necessarily given us money, aren't, aren't our friends and families that might be like feel weird about being like, oh no, that's not actually right. And just I don't know, drill a little harder before we get into counseling situations because that's what we're doing. If we can actually read a natal chart, like we can see some very, very sensitive information about people's lives and the struggles that they've been through or are going through. And, it's sensitive information. And I just like the idea of bringing a little bit more rigorous practice to it. And I also really love groups, like small groups where it's safe to share. I've found that it can be really, really magical what happens in those groups. I did a collaboration with Verone Bright before called Batcave, which was very much like embodied
Oh, yeah,
astrology,
I remember that. Mhm.
talking about things that are coming up. And it was just really incredible what happens in like a safe space of small people.
Yeah, that was epic. People are still talking about it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Batcave was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you come with the goods. I know you've got definitely some skill in that arena. A couple of things that you said that were right on point for me is you are getting into some very deep personal
Mhm.
traumatic, information sometimes when you look at a natal chart. It really surprised me, to be honest with you, because as a physician, I get some pretty personal information, but
Mhm.
working as a professional astrologer, these people tell me more about
Mhm.
their life than they would as I have some patients that overlap that are also my clients, and I've
Mhm.
gotten to know them so much more personally. I love the one-on-one. I
Mhm.
When I look at a chart and I see you, I see the best you. Like,
Mhm.
all of the I see your pure divine light, and I see what your highest potential is, and so when I read a chart, I see that, and I tell you that, and then I
Mhm.
say, "Okay, also, you have
Yeah.
some stuff
Yeah.
you have some stuff over here. This could have manifested this way, could have manifested this way, but here's how it's supposed to, and here's
Mm.
the journey that you're going to make if you're not here yet. So I don't want you to feel bad that I'm seeing the best side of you."
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Because that's where you're supposed to go,
Mhm.
and when people click into that, man, I've seen some amazing transformations.
I
It's
bet.
amazing. It's amazing. And
Yeah.
it's not something that either one of us can do for you. You have to come to the
Mhm.
table, like, willing to see the best self, willing to be in an uncomfortable spot to, take the next step and then become confident. So,
Mhm.
yeah. And
And I find
the small
oh,
groups, you mentioned that too, and, I've come to find that that is absolutely the way to learn this art. You can't
mhm.
sit in a classroom and just absorb.
No.
You've gotta interact, you've gotta exchange energy.
Mhm. So I guess I should say it's 6 months long.
Oh,
Anything
yeah,
I mentioned, like the
there's
basic
that.
details. Yeah, it's 6 months long, so it's gonna be like a small group mentorship, and we're meeting like 4 times a month, so it's gonna be quite the experience.
Yeah, guys, all her links are in the description, and Lori is really good about putting that stuff up. So if y'all are interested in the Adept program,
Mhm.
um, click
I'd
on
love to
that.
have you.
Yeah, and then I
Yes.
actually have your calendar package, and that's
Mhm.
pretty good. Yeah, I like that. It's all
It
hands
is.
done, right? It's all done with
Yeah.
just your hand. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful
Yeah,
work.
and I do all of the prints in there as well. This year was sort of a greatest hits, but it's set up for IAU, but next year it's gonna be midpoints, I think.
Okay.
I like
Yeah,
IAU.
that's a tricky spot for us,
Yeah.
doing constellational astrology. It's like, do we go with Athens midpoints, like the OG who's been doing this for 15, 20 years with constellational astrology, who's, like, developed the software, or do we go with what, NASA has said?
Well, I mean, I would say that really the OG would be like Walter Berg, who used
Okay.
IAU back in the 70s, right?
Well, there's that too.
But I digress. Capricorn has made it difficult to use IAU, so I am conceding and will be switching to midpoints next year.
Yeah, that'll be, or you could do both.
There's
That's a
been too
lot of
many
effort.
like I thought I had it right, but then it wasn't, and then I had to change it last minute. I will go with the easiest
Yes.
path of least resistance, but
So not
yeah.
only do you have this program and you're, like, getting into the is it ISSA?
International Sidereal Astrology Association, so
Okay,
ISAA, yeah. And
ISAA, okay.
I'm
You're
just
doing that, and you do
uh,
your art, and you're a mother
I
of
am,
2,
yeah,
of
yeah.
littles,
Little babies, a 5-year-old and an almost 2-year-old.
and you're like an entrepreneur all at the same, like, this is amazing, and you're
Yeah.
so young to be doing this, like, I feel like
Oh, I lost you a little bit.
I'm gonna do it my way. Uh-oh, our connection was lost for a second. Hopefully, let me just
Oh,
check
you're
YouTube and
back.
okay. Okay, we're there.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, I always felt like I always knew that I wanted to be my own boss, and, that's not something I really want to, uh what's the word I'm looking for? It's not something I'm gonna give up, right? I'll give other things up in order to put the work in to get there first.
Yeah, that's really what it's about, right? For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, for
Now, one
sure.
of the things I've never actually, like, stared at your chart, I don't think, but I
Mhm.
do know that I've heard you speak of
Mhm.
your Mars and your Pluto. Do you wanna talk
Oh,
about that a little bit? Because that's a big, transit going on right now, the
yeah,
Mars
I've
opposed
got
Pluto.
Mars opposite Pluto, square my nodes, and so does my daughter. Has the
Oh my
exact same
goodness.
setup, so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But, yeah, it's something that it's one of the, like, slippery ones that I've had a hard time quite locking in on for myself, just being so close to it. Um, but I find that I think it has something to do with despite me, like, taking all these steps and being like, "No, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get what I want." Sometimes there's still, like, something in my mind that convinces me that, like, for some reason I cannot have what I want. It's the strangest thing.
No, I understand.
Yeah. Um, and just, like, over time, learning the power of my own actions and my capacity to make choices in order to get what it is that I ultimately desire. So,
It
yeah.
sounds a little Saturnian 'cause I always read Saturn as, like, the planet that teaches us we build our own prisons,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
It And you've already done your first Saturn return, so
I have.
you've
Yeah.
had those lessons, and so now how do you see Saturn? I see him as like once you realize that those decisions that you make ultimately create what you're doing and
Mhm.
what's around you, even the people that you don't like, the situations you don't like. I think
Mhm.
when you take ownership with that, Saturn is so much more powerful than everybody thinks. Like it can really actually help you more than hurt you.
Oh yeah, Saturn, the gifts that Saturn gives last a lifetime. And you've got
Yeah.
two options with Saturn. You can either run from the responsibility or accept the responsibility. And if you choose to accept the responsibility, whatever that may be, then I always call it a late bloomer signature. Like if you put the work in, if you can find ways to make the things that you need to do over and over and over and over again, if you can look on it with love and find a way to like give a little devotion twist to that and put the effort in, then it will get better. It just will.
Yeah.
And by
Absolutely.
the end, like you'll have built something beautiful.
Mhm, mhm.
That's sort of how I think about Saturn.
So
And
what
I
do you
think there's like definitely some like crone energy there that's
Mhm.
mixed a lot of the time. It always makes me think of like female lineage a lot.
With Saturn?
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Capricorn.
Yeah. Where's your moon?
My moon is in Leo in the 12th house,
Okay.
or 11th. It depends on what house system, but
Leo moon. That's nice.
mhm.
Yeah, my moon's in Capricorn.
Yeah,
It's kind of on the maybe a few degrees before Aquarius, and
yeah.
someone suggested to me that like if you use the IAU boundaries, it's actually an Aquarius moon.
Oh, okay. It's got that
But
little
I don't
crest.
know. I've always felt like the Capricorn moon, that Saturnian moon, was like someone who is just content to do the necessary work.
Mm.
Like I never
Mhm.
really was someone who was like, I don't want to do this because I mean, I want the thing that I want, but I'm going to do the work to get there, and I'm going to if as long as I know what it is, then I'm content and I'm happy.
Mhm.
That
What's your
makes sense.
Mars?
What's that? My
What's your
Mars
Mars?
is Leo. Mars is Leo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Leo 4th house. Um, so that I think that's a healthy Mars.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's it.
I'm not a really sick person at all, and everyone says I look younger than I am, so I owe
Mhm.
that to my Mars. But yeah.
Well, Capricorn moon, Saturn signatures are kind of like that too. People age backwards a little bit.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Okay. I love
Hmm.
that. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Late bloomers, man.
So the last time Mars and Pluto were in opposition like this, I want to
Yeah.
say it was 2023-ish.
Well,
Like,
this
because it's
is the
every 2
last
years.
pass on this, right?
This is when Pluto and Mars were square the nodes in the sky,
Okay.
but they were opposite each other, and it was right at the cusp of Cancer and Gemini.
Mm.
And I remember that was the last time I was really, really sick. There was a purging energy,
Mm.
and this time I didn't.
Hmm.
But I also didn't have a lot of the extra stuff I did 2 years ago, like all the other things that I would worry about and all that's sort of out of my life now.
Yeah.
So I think do you experience that? Like, is there a almost, surgical and unemotional purge type of energy that you go as luminaries pass over that Mars Pluto, like the moon or the sun, or when Mars itself does that?
Um, just like in transit when it's happening.
Yeah, or when or when something contacts your natal resonance
That's
there with the
that's
opposition.
interesting. I don't know, but now I will pay attention to it for sure. Um, I know that because this is the last pass on this Pluto Mars opposition because the Mars retrograde,
Right.
right? And when it last happened, which I think was in December, my daughter got so sick she puked like 13 times.
Oh,
So that was that was interesting.
and 13 times no less. I
I
mean
know, right? Yeah, so there definitely could be something to that for sure. I mean, I've found that my life in general has been a constant process of like death and rebirth and purging and transmutation, I would say. Like my whole my whole 20s was an entirely different adventure where I was like addicted to opiates and stuff. So
Mm,
I feel
mm.
like I've lived many lifetimes in this short lifetime already.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
Mhm.
Everything that you've gone through and the profound wisdom that you've been able to integrate and
Mhm.
share with us, it's amazing.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of death in my family
Mhm.
too, which I feel like has quite shaped me. When my grandma died, that was a very profound waking up experience as well. I feel like that could also be connected to that whole situation.
Where's Pluto, your 4th house?
No, Pluto's in my second house.
Mm.
Well, if I go by equal house, Pluto is in my first house. By whole sign, it's in my second, and then Mars would be seventh or eighth. So
Wow.
yeah,
First house Plutos are, they have a really good bullshit meter.
yeah,
You guys are like, "Nope, that's not true. Mm-mm,
yeah,
nope, stop it." And you say it too.
yeah, yes. For sure. I'll say the thing for
Yeah, you
sure.
have no problem calling that
I
out.
love to say the thing.
The thing that nobody's saying, so
Yeah, I said to I've got like a little. I work a serving job here and there, and I said to my boss the other day, I was like, I'm sorry for being a pain in the ass. I'm starting to think it's just who I am as a person.
And
I just like to
is
say
your
the
Pluto
thing.
in is in Libra?
Libra, yeah.
Okay. Whew.
I gotta say, when I was going through your stuff for Stellar Foundations about the Libra Pluto, it like full on triggered me, which I found absolutely hilarious because it was about the like people who get triggered too much.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, I was triggered when I realized I wasn't a Leo sun anymore.
yeah,
That
yeah,
triggered me. I was like, "What?
yeah.
Cancer?"
Same thing happens to me. I went back to Cancer too.
Okay.
When I first read my sidereal chart, I was like, absolutely no,
No.
no way,
There's no way. There's no way
no
I'm a
way.
Cancer sun. Okay, now I have to read about this. And then I read into all the esoterics around the scarab beetle and the creation from
Mhm.
nothing and being the midwife and the birthing of the soul sun, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, I deliver babies. I like that."
Yeah,
Yeah, and it also
yeah.
explains why I, automatically love people when I meet them, because
Mhm.
I see them. I see right through it. I see right down to the bottom of their very soul, and I'm a Cancer, so I love you.
Mhm. That's sweet. Yeah, strangely enough, the thing that I was like, what do you mean about it the most was that I was no longer Scorpio Pluto.
Oh.
But now the way I look at it is like, I've got Mars opposite Pluto square my nodes. I kind of am still, just like a roundabout way.
Yeah, yeah, for
Right.
sure.
But yeah.
Oh, Pluto.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the Pluto Virgo generation, so
Hmm.
we, we see things broken immediately. Like, I feel like it manifested for me, especially in the 4th house. It was, just kind of leaving home quickly. I just
Mm.
had to go, because it didn't resonate with who I was being in my house, like, from a very
Yeah.
early age, you know? Not for anything bad, I mean, it was fine, but I just had that desire to sort of break free and get out and put my own roots somewhere. I've
Mm-hmm.
also noticed that people in this generation, um, are code breakers, like, they're obsessed with how things work and why they work. Like, we
Mm.
we have to get down to, like, the nitty-gritty. We also have no problem scrapping a project and, like, starting over from the bottom. Uh,
Makes me think of my mom a bit.
yeah, and, yeah, it's interesting, the Pluto energy, and right now, it's
Mm-hmm.
really weird because people that are born between 71 and 75,
Mm-hmm.
that includes myself, we are having, a Pluto trine Pluto. And if you look at
Mm.
the way Pluto moves around the solar system, this is super interesting.
Mhm.
It has a highly elliptical, kinda tilted orbit around the sun. So while all the other planets are they're elliptical, but they're relatively circular, Pluto is sort of elongated and tilted a bit. So it goes above and below our ecliptic, through its, what is it, 248-year cycle?
Yeah, I think so.
And parts of its cycle, when it's at perihelion, will be faster than other parts of its cycle. So if you look at the circle and you look at where a trine would occur, that's a
Why?
third of its path, that would be a third. That's not supposed to happen till I think you're like 81 years old. Something like that. You're not supposed to have your Pluto trine Pluto until you're 81. But because Pluto has recently been in perihelion, it's happening to the 50-year-olds. Really, really interesting. So you'll see it in the content creators that are kind of coming up, opening up to truths. It's like these people that have expertise in a lot of different fields are integrating that knowledge and coming up with these new ways to look at almost everything, to look at physics differently, to look at science differently, to look at spirit differently, medicine. It's really, really profound to see it happening.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And then those Leo
like
Pluto.
only good things for the planet as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think the Pluto trine Pluto has this generation growing up faster.
Mm-hmm.
You know, almost to the point where we can hold the wisdom of an 80-year-old and still have
Yeah,
the vitality to give that wisdom. Does that make sense?
yeah, to act
Yeah.
on it for sure. And maybe I feel like the capacity to change more instead of just like clinging to what one knew previously,
Oh, I like that.
right? The
I
ability
like
to
that.
just be like, okay, no, things are moving faster now, so I have to too.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that when since really diving into the whole Ophiuchus and the 13 sign journey and going through all that shadow work to break the shackles of the tropical astrology, I think that's been part of my process with that trine. And it manifests differently for everybody. It just depends on, like, where are you with your ego? Are you and your ego friends, or does your ego sort of battle with you a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
That's Pluto's domain, right? That ego energy. So that
Yeah.
ego death that you talk about, that death and rebirth that you've done your whole life,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's such a Pluto signature.
Yeah,
So
for
powerful.
sure.
So
For
powerful.
sure. I think maybe I think it can. I mean, the death and rebirth is definitely Pluto, but I think there's a certain level of like healthy ego necessary in Mars too, right? In order to have the confidence to move forward, you sort of
Mhm.
have to have some sort of ego structure there.
Little
Does that make
fire,
sense?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, it's two fire planets that are battling one another with the ego. And I want to take action. And Mars is like, are you pure enough to take it? Mars is like,
Hmm.
hell yeah, I am.
Yeah, that's something that I've been sitting with, just sort of thinking about this Mars Pluto situation in the sky now. And for me, especially since being postpartum and I have Pluto opposite my sun right now, and it was like crossing my IC for a while, I really had to I was losing my temper in ways that I never had before.
Mhm.
And so with this coming up, I like wrote on my calendar. I was like, okay. And like last time on the last pass, I noticed it was happening again. And so I wrote on my calendar. I was like, nope, like remember, I've been grappling with this idea that this feels like a test. Like the universe is like, what are you doing with the power we've already given you? And are you using it in responsible ways, in good ways, or are you using it in bad ways? Because at least in my magical thinking way of it, I like to think that maybe the universe is just ready to give me something so much more if I can pass the test of, well, do you hold the power we gave you already? Well,
Wow. And so what do? Do you have you have like a meditation that you do? Is there an energetic sort of experience that you go through in order to say, yes, I can hold this space, I can hold this power?
um, I mean, really, it comes down to, because I mean, lots of times, right, when I'm losing my temper, it's because I have a 5-year-old who is very fiery and knows exactly what he wants and always
Mhm.
has. I always joke that when I first had him, I would say that I wasn't raising a yes man. And I have come to laugh in mirth at my words since then so many times. I just had to say it, right? I mean, it was always going to be what it was going to be, anyways. But so, like, in those moments where I feel like I'm gonna lose it, I really just have to ask myself, like, what am I actually trying to achieve here? Right? And is it some sort of like fear around safety that doesn't really exist? Is
Mhm.
it just wanting to like control things so that my life will be more convenient? And really just having to like look at things like that I never had to look at before I was in charge of these tiny humans. So a lot of it honestly is just like releasing a lot of control and learning to be okay with it.
Yeah. Tiny humans are hard.
Right? And I do yoga and stuff like that, but
You have to. But you know what? It's
yeah.
temporary. It's temporary, right? They
Mhm.
won't always be littles.
Yeah.
And, the best you can do is keep them safe and be a good example, you know?
Right? And,
And I think for that little fireball that you have,
mhm,
you going through the process of learning to manage the fire of your own temper is an
mhm,
outstanding example.
mhm. I hope so. I hope so.
Because if he sees you react when you're triggered, afraid, whatever,
Yeah.
in a way that is, not so
Yep.
helpful, then he
Yep.
will learn to do that. And
Yeah.
so watching you go, "I'm cool. Whatever
Mhm.
happens. I'm
Yeah.
just laughing at you, little man. Are you
Yeah.
done? Are you done?"
Yeah.
Um, then he'll learn to do that too.
Yeah. And so I've definitely had to, like, in the moment, make choices of, in moments of like deep dysregulation, make choices of like, well, am I going to make the choice for like control or love here? Right. And it seems to often come down to that one.
Oh my
And
gosh. You are so
struggling
wise.
through that. Well,
You
thank
are
you.
s oh my gosh. It's beautiful, it's beautiful.
I do my best.
Yes. When those littles are grown, they're going to be, very sharp, very smart. So
Mm-hmm.
it's so interesting to have littles right now too, with all the
Mm-hmm.
things that are going on in the world. Um, especially with how they're educated in schools and
Mm-hmm.
the sort of required medications that they have to have. We don't have to be too obvious, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
How are you kind of separating yourself, protecting your family from that in this day and age? I'm curious.
Well, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest, like, we don't even we don't even have a doctor, generally speaking. We don't really engage with the medical system too terribly much. I mean, unless we need to. Obviously, if we needed to, we
Sure.
take them in, right? But they're pretty healthy. They get little colds and stuff like that, but I do as much as I can with herbs, and I've been like dabbling in homeopathy lately, which I used to think was nonsense. But then when I was pregnant and wasn't allowed Tylenol, uh, arnica saved me. So then I was like, oh, maybe there's something to this. So I've always been, I went through phases of being really into herbalism and stuff like that. I've always been very interested in health. I've also been through phases of being an absolute hypochondriac as well. So like it's part of the Virgo cycle and Virgo rising. But uh as they
Wow,
get
Virgo
older,
rising?
yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
um And as they get older, I'm really excited to sort of instill in them that healing is actually our birthright and our body knows how to heal. And it can do miracles that, a lot of doctors couldn't even comprehend. Like I used to have asthma and I don't have asthma anymore. And it's been years. And
Because of the herbal knowledge that you have?
no, no, not at all, actually.
Is it like releasing grief from the lungs?
I cleared a bunch of trauma from when I was a baby,
Amazing.
and it went away and never came back. And so that was a real eye opener for me.
Wow. I used to have a lot of sinus problems and
Yeah.
drainage, like throat chakra stuff.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Man, if you want me to be on YouTube, you have to help me with this because whenever I
Yeah.
get online, I'm like, bleh, bleh."
Yeah.
You know? And,
Oh,
so I had to
interesting.
do a lot of work around that, and there was some, like, past life stuff around that. And also just being a
Oh,
small
cool.
person and being sort of physically afraid to be hurt,
Yeah.
that was there too, like, just acting small because I was feeling small, so out of
Mhm.
that, actually, worked with someone who, I don't this was so spooky and strange. They're an oracle, they're a medium, that and, this person said to me, "I was an executioner of you because you were a witch in one of your past lives," and I was like, "What?" Got all these chills and stuff, and so we did, like, a little energy clearing with that so that she could be sort of
Ooh,
released of that karma, and I could be released of that trauma, and that I think that's where it really flipped around for me. It was yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
There's, like, so much going on beyond behind the curtain that
Mhm.
people don't even realize, and, like, I don't know, magic is real, and you'd be amazed, basically.
It is, and we're so powerful. I mean, I love the work that,
Mm,
Dr. Joe Dispenza does. He's
mm,
a physician, as studies the brain, and,
mhm,
also has, like meditation, breath work, exercises, and
mhm,
has hundreds of testimonials of people that, like, no longer have cancer, that they can walk when they couldn't, like a modern day
mm,
miracle worker, and it's all
mhm.
stuff you can do. It's just changing your mindset, changing your vibration.
Yep.
And that energetic work, I mean, you might say it's woo and there's nothing wrong with me and past life, smash life, there's nothing that's a dumb thing.
Mhm,
Whatever happened with that oracle, I still have an open mind, I'm still a magical thinker. I don't need to, like, label it and analyze it and say, "This is what it's real magic." It's
mhm.
technology that we don't understand right now
Yep,
in a
totally.
scientific way.
Yeah, I've always thought that too, like, I mean, even how placebos work is
Oh,
enough,
there it is right
right?
there.
It's like total proof that, oh, actually, like, if your body believes that it's healing, it'll start healing. Well, then your
Don't
body
even
can
get me started. Don't even get me
start,
started.
right?
Because these psychiatric medications that all these
Mm,
young women are on,
been
because
there.
because they're a little anxious, um,
Mhm,
has a 30 to 40% effective rate, and the placebo rate is naturally around 30 to 35%. It's no
mm,
better than a placebo,
yeah,
except what it
yes.
actually does to you is it numbs you. It keeps you
Mhm,
from, penetrating into what it is that's actually making you anxious.
yeah.
This is one of the things I've that has frustrated me for so long as a doctor of women. It's like
Mm,
it's like they're good up until a certain age, and then all of a sudden the anxiety kicks in, the worry kicks in, the self-worth issues kick in, and they feel like they're supposed to follow this certain path. They're
mm,
like it's like, I've been programmed to go to school and find my man and have a baby and a family and a perfect career, and, the recent, mainstream media is just programming our young women to hate themselves and each other because they're just slightly not perfect, because they have hairy nipples or weird looking toenails. It's crazy,
mhm.
like, "I didn't shave my legs, doctor, don't judge me." I'm like, "For real? For real? We're already way past that. I don't care what your legs look like." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just stuff like that, and, they would come in and they'd say, "I think my hormones are off." I'm like, "You're 32. What are you doing?" "Well, I have 2 kids, and I work 50 hours a week, and my husband's unemployed, and my mom's sick." And I'm like, "Okay, stop right there. There's nothing
Yes.
wrong with your hormones. You have problems with saying yes."
Mm,
And you
mm.
can't you get into that in 15 minutes with a patient.
Oh, no, not at all.
So it's like, "Okay, well, let me do some labs, and here's a here's a, anxiety medicine for you."
Mm,
And then they feel bad because they're on anxiety medicine and worried that something's
mm.
wrong with them. Crazy.
Yep.
It's
Yeah, for
crazy.
sure.
So, yeah, there's
And so
definitely
not only is it not better than, um not that much better than placebo, but it also could be doing, like, active harm in the process, right?
Mhm.
Just introducing foreign substances into a system that, if operating properly, knows how to operate itself.
Yeah, and really the simple act of hugging someone else, laughing,
Mm,
praying,
mhm.
grounding yourself in the earth, can elevate your mood in ways that you know, Ativan can't.
Yeah, for sure. But it
You know?
can take you on a snaky trail, like, away from what your actual truth is, making it
It sure
much,
will. Sure will.
much easier to continue to pretend that whatever the problem is totally fine,
Mhm, mhm.
right? Yeah. I mean,
So
as for education, I was gonna unschool my children, and then my marriage split up, and that caused, a whole bunch of changes to plans, as it does. And so now I've sent my son to a Waldorf school. It's like a super hippie school where they like go on walks outdoors with little lanterns and talk about
oh,
the
that's so fun.
spring, and it's beautiful. Actually, I think it wasn't what I planned, but it turned out much better than I think what I would have planned because my son's super
Isn't that how
social.
the universe works? Just
Yeah,
does that to us, yeah.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I remember when you went through that transition,
Hmm.
because we also see each other at the Lilith Lounge, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I often, you're the youngest member there. I often call it my menopausal support group.
Hmm.
You know, and then you're there, this young bright star there, absorbing our crone wisdom, and then at the same time, like,
Mhm.
bringing in your own, many lifetimes ancient wisdom to our group, and, it's good to see you smiling. It's good to see you, feeling, optimistic about
Yeah.
things that are coming, and also just kinda not letting those transitory events ruin your vision and your evolution.
Yeah. Ah, it's another one, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you get used to it at this time.
Yeah,
Let's see what
kind
let's
of.
see what these guys are saying here in the chat. I'm gonna see if
Okay,
anybody if
sure.
you guys have any questions for Rio or me, if you
Mhm.
have any interesting placements, because I also mentioned Rio's an amazing astrologer too. So let's see. E Greens 1-308 says energy follows thought, combining sidereal astrology knowledge to one's own energy patterns comprehensions is very useful. My speedometer for energy is dowsing with the pendulum. Ooh, that brings up a really good point and another cool technology. I see
Mhm.
pendulums as an extension of this phenomenon of muscle testing. It's the same
Mhm.
thing that energy workers with Reiki do. 'Cause I
Mhm.
had someone just sort of do a demonstration with me about what are you doing with your hands? What is that? Show me, give me the proof, right? And they say, "Okay, well, just sit there, just breathe, just sort of whatever." And, they did, um first they did up and
Mhm.
and they said, "Hold out your arm and don't let me push it down." And they
Mhm.
couldn't. Okay, so I did the same thing. They said, "We're gonna do the same thing again." So I did, and they did the they did the down thing on me. And
Yeah.
put out your arm again.
Hmm.
They pushed it right down. I was like, "What? How did you do that?" And then they did up again, put my arm out, and they couldn't push it down.
Huh.
So we repeated that experiment a couple of times and was random with it. And I said, "Do my other arm," and the same thing played out. So when you're holding a pendulum, you have these very small movements that your limbic system, the part of your brain that's subconscious, you know,
Mhm.
below the thinking part, because you have this part of your brain that's thinking, it's always processing and filtering and giving you the logical energy of what's going on around you so you can make sense of it. But there's this other part of your brain underneath that monitors all of your bodily functions as well as pulls in those fourth dimensional energies. And so
Mhm.
when this brain says question, the answer goes through that limbic system and there's a small
Mhm.
imperceivable movement and it gives you yes or no.
Yep. It's
So
true.
same thing with your body too. So I'll do muscle testing. I'll just stand, and if I'm deciding what I wanna do, forward is yes, and backward is no.
Mhm.
And it
I've
works.
it a little
Yeah.
bit. It does work, yeah.
Do you use anything like that to help you?
I use a pendulum, yeah. Sometimes because I read tarot not professionally, just like sort of around for fun. And sometimes, like if a bunch of cards come out, I'll use my pendulum to be like, hey, which of these am I actually supposed to be reading? I'll use it for yes, no's sometimes. Lately, I've been using it to find the remote a lot. If it's
Does
actually,
that work when you look for the
it
remote?
does, yeah. Yeah,
That
it
is
does.
amazing.
It'll like show me when I'm in the general area at least. So
That's right, because your subconscious remembers that, even if this part of your brain cannot
I
access
used
it.
it. I used it to find my wallet once too. That was very useful. I've got some keys I need to find.
Wow.
Maybe I need to. Maybe I need to ask the pendulum.
I need to get another one because I washed my old one.
Mm.
and the chain came off, and it was a beautiful quartz crystal. I would always just keep it in my pocket, my scrubs.
Yeah. I have a pendant that my great grandma used to wear, and it's on a
Okay,
chain, and that's what I use.
there you go. I guess anything can work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything can talk to you, even the dowsing rods.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I've got a cabin, and I wanted to use dowsing rods to find a place to like use it for the water. I never actually tried, but one day.
Yeah, I think you know why I think it works for water?
Mm.
And this is just sort of saying, okay, this looks like magic, but
Mhm.
it's just technology we don't understand. My theory is because of what I understand about the limbic system and how there's all this cerebrospinal fluid in there. It's water. It's all water. So for me,
Mhm.
the moon rules that because that's where your intuition comes from, or at least,
Mm.
or at least that's where you understand your intuition. That's where you begin to understand it. So that because it's fluid, the moon affects it. It's an in and out cycle. It has to do with circadian rhythm, has to do with your monthly rhythm, all at the
Mhm.
same time. Your subconscious also knows where the water is,
Mm.
right? It just knows. It already knows. It knows a lot of things that you don't are not immediately aware of,
Mhm.
right? So when you have those dowsing rods, that's why that works. That's just my theory.
Yeah, maybe. This conversation is making me think I should probably drink more water.
Always a good thing. Always a good thing. Let's see.
Always a good thing. Stay hydrated, folks.
All right, let's see. Ultima said, "Mens sana in corpore sano," and I think that means mind and body. Mind and body. Um, Lori is also a Leo moon. I think my husband's also a Leo moon.
Mm.
And then they put Lori put your links in the chat.
Oh, thank you, Lori.
And let's see, ownership is free. People
And if
are
anyone goes to my website, you can get the digital versions of the calendar and the planner if you just want to print it out yourself. Although printing the planner would be a little tricky. But if you want to print it out yourself, you can just like choose whatever you want to pay for it for the digital versions.
Yep. It's a great product. I'm excited every year when you come out with it. So
Yeah,
cool.
I'm gonna start preparing early this year. Like next month, I'm gonna get all my data in order instead of last minute
Well,
rush
you know
things.
what? No pressure, but if it's something that's getting repetitive for you and you don't feel like doing it anymore, do
Mm-hmm.
something else.
No,
I
I like it.
struggle with that. I feel like I have like a commitment to, what I said I was going to do or what I thought I said I was going to do in the terms of the
Mm,
creative realm. But
yeah,
a lot of times, if you're following that intuition and that gut in your creative process,
yeah,
it takes you someplace else sometimes.
yeah,
So you
totally.
don't always have to like be hard on yourself or deliver.
Yeah. No, this is my way of being easy on myself because usually I do very, very well under pressure, which,
Okay.
might have something to do with that like Pluto Mars thing too. And I'll just like wait until the very last moment and have that pressure like force me to do it. Whereas this time I'm like, no, okay, this is a project I'm doing. I know I'm doing it because I do it every year. I'm just going to actually prepare ahead of time.
Very good. Yeah. So then maybe the way you've changed over the year is changing how you look at that, which is good. Very
Yeah, I'm really playing with the idea of consistency this year, which is something I've generally had a very hard time with.
good. Yes, my journey for this year is just being easier on myself. I've always
Mm,
been so hard on myself my whole life. It's just I
mm.
have a lot of Saturn. I have a lot of Saturn.
I was gonna say Capricorn moon.
Yeah.
That's the question that I always ask Saturnian moons is like, how's your inner voice? And is it mean? And how
It
are you
can
working
be.
with
It
that?
can be very mean, and, I just say, "Really? No. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
okay. It's
It's
totally okay."
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably taking forward motion anyways and like doing what it wants you to do anyhow. So you might as well
I
be
try
nice.
to. I do try to. Yeah. You know what I have found? I just wanna kinda just dive into one more thought process with you, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you go, but, constellational versus tropical astrology.
Mm-hmm.
I know you have opinions on that.
I do.
Um, so,
Yeah.
do you find it useful? Do you find it helpful? Do you think that, we shouldn't really worry about it? I get a lot of people coming to my channel, correcting me.
Mm. Yeah.
about where the moon phases are and where the larger planets are, where they have been. But I have to remind them gently that it is not tropical that I'm doing, and thanks
Mhm.
for bringing that up. There is a difference for sure. But do you still use your tropical chart? Do you help people with theirs? No.
No, God, no. I also don't put like any energy anymore into fighting it either. Um, I mean, there's other people that are fighting the good fight. I'm just gonna be over here like doing my thing, and I find that I don't really have to deal with it too terribly much, right? And part of that probably has to do with the fact that like usually the thing that I'm most consistently doing is sharing writing, and mostly the people who are reading that are like my own Facebook friends, and I put it to groups where this is the norm,
Mhm.
right? And when I was doing a lot of one-on-one readings, and I think I'm actually going to start doing some more like actual face-to-face one-on-one readings again, but when I was doing a lot of those, um I either had people that knew what they were getting into or had people that like didn't really know anything about astrology at all. So I would just be like, listen, I use a different system. And they'd be like, oh, okay. I don't know what that means, but I'm not this anymore. But they only ever knew their sun sign
Mhm.
really a lot of the time. So I'd just be like, oh, let me tell you all about yourself. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, well, that does sound accurate. And so, like, I don't know. I don't want to spend too much of my energy fighting it. And I think that, eventually, I think it's really catching steam, constellational,
Mhm.
right? More and more people are coming to it because it obviously makes sense. And I think that on the basis of the fact that a lot of people are seeing that it's just better naturally, it's just going to keep gaining steam, I think.
Yeah.
And I also have a theory that, so much of what we're doing is, and a lot of people who are drawn to this work are like channelers and people who are really tapped in other ways, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of times the chart is kind of just a doorway to those other like extra senses. And the way that I look at it a lot of times is like a proper channel is going to be a proper channel, and they're going to use whatever language they speak to explain what it is they're seeing, right? And I think
Mhm.
that that accounts for people who like do get really really good readings using tropical,
Yeah, it's not the astrology, it's the astrologer,
Mhm.
right? The one
Right?
bringing you the information. You were drawn to them for that reason, even if you've had a deep
Exactly.
tropical reading and you've had a tropical astrologer your whole life and you've asked them about true sky and they say, "No, true sky is terrible, you're gonna stay with this tropical." If they've been serving you well, don't abandon them
Exactly, right? Like,
because
it comes
they're
down
yeah.
to whether or not we can be useful to people, and, like, souls know souls on ways in ways that our, like, thinking minds don't necessarily. Like, what are the frickin' chances that you found someone that, like, knew you in a past life? Like, that it defies all logic, and of course it happened that way,
Mhm.
right?
That's how I make
So
friends now.
yeah,
I
like,
literally go,
oh,
"Oh, hey, hi, I haven't seen you in lifetimes. How are
yeah,
you? I love you."
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, people are going to feel drawn to the people they're supposed to be drawn to. And I think that we're only going to continue to gain steam. And I think that, we draw a lot of people that are very on the intuitive side, and we draw a lot of people that are very on the analytical side. And for those people who really like the details, it just makes sense
Mhm.
that we use
Mhm.
the actual
We
stars.
use the actual
So,
sky. It's simple.
know?
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of just like letting your freak flag fly. And, the people that are meant to find you are going to find you. That's
Absolutely,
sort of my thoughts
absolutely.
on it.
Guess who came to say hi to us?
Whew.
Michael Hart again.
Hey, Micah. What's up?
He says, "Hey, ladies, cool convo. Rio, you're all over my YouTube today. Second interview with you I've listened to. So
Oh,
you are getting
interesting.
around. You're gonna be a superstar with that Leo moon."
Yeah, maybe one day. I haven't even uploaded anything to YouTube for a while, but I'd like to. I really like having conversations with people and
Mhm.
just like talking about this stuff that lights us up. I think it's really
Yeah,
fun. So
it is. It's so fun. Tell me more about the ISAA. I saw, Michael's post about it, and I listened to, Abby and them talk about it.
yeah,
Tell me
so
how you're bringing people in.
I don't know too terribly much about it. We have our first actual meeting on Sunday, so
Oh,
I'll be
cool.
learning more then. But the idea is to create a stronger network where people can come together and share what they're doing. And I think, like, in some form, you know, legitimize it somewhat, right? Because within the tropical community, it's very much just like, oh, there's
Do you have
a
this badge from that yeah.
right? And like, I personally don't particularly care about the badges necessarily, but there is this sort of overwhelming idea in mainstream astrology that like anyone who's using the constellations is simply confused and like they don't understand enough,
We
which
don't
I
understand
find
the solar system or
right.
the
Like
seasonal
they're just
systems.
terribly confused and they don't know what they're talking about. And they've all been had by NASA, which I
Yeah.
find hilarious because like I spent a lot of time in the tropical community and it was very not everyone. There's still one tropical actually technically two. There's still two tropical astrologers that I follow because I think they've got like interesting insights and I keep them on my Facebook, but for the most part there's a lot of surface level stuff that's just stereotyping people and just like making jokes and just like so surface level, and it's hilarious to me this idea that like everyone that's just like the confused little dummies are actually like the really true seekers that have been searching for knowledge for like decades and really understand at a much deeper level than a lot of people in these like astrology Facebook groups doing
Yeah.
tropical. So I think there is a place for it's probably about time to be like, no, guys, like we're actually doing something serious here, And the part that really appeals to me is the idea of like having our own events.
Mhm.
The badge, whatever. I mean, I'm a little chaotic, and I teach myself a lot of things, right? So there
Mhm.
is going to be education standards that they're putting in place, and um, they aren't trying to be a governing body, which was really important for me joining
Mhm.
because I would think that's a little bit silly. I've got a lot of Uranus in my chart, but they do want to make a place where people can like come and connect to other sidereal astrologers and get decent education if they so choose. And I really like the idea of like us being able to have big events and gather and like see each other in person
Yeah.
and you know
Cool.
grow
Well,
from each other's
I'm looking forward to see what you guys come up with. If there's anything I can do to help speak it into
mm-hmm.
existence for you guys, let me know. I have probably about 300 to 500 students that are orbiting around me right now that might be interested in being a part of it and going to gatherings and things like that. So, just keep me in the loop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I've definitely dropped your name a couple times for sure. And I think they're just in the process of, reaching out to people. So,
Excellent. Excellent. Well,
yeah.
there's so many things to look forward to. Every time I think
Totally.
about what's coming and, in our general community as a whole as sidereal astrologers, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
each individual seems to be moving in alignment, which is really,
Ain't
really
no
beautiful.
stopping this train now, folks.
No,
It's
mm-mm.
going.
We are in it. And I am so happy and I feel so blessed and grateful to know you, to know Michael, to know Athen, Maria, Julie, Verone, all you guys. you've been sticking it out through thick and thin. We've been
Yeah.
just speaking our truth, and I think more and more people are understanding that as they realize their own reality is a little bit off and a little bit fake, and then they go into the esoteric studies. When does the fake end, right?
Mhm.
It ends right here because you're looking at the actual sky.
Mhm.
I can't make that up. You look at you look at the full moon. Look at where it is.
Mhm.
It's going to be a month behind what they're telling you it is.
Yeah, for sure.
And no judgment here, guys. Like if you're still in the
Mhm.
tropical, that's okay. It's a transition. It's hard. Ophiuchus isn't for everybody in every lifetime.
Mhm.
It's a tough energy. It's a deep energy,
Yeah.
and
And I find too, like I don't have a lot of Ophiuchus in my chart, and I tend to like attract people that I've got like some similarities to, right?
Mhm.
Like the super Ophiuchans don't tend to usually come to me, probably
Okay.
because I just don't like necessarily hold those codes, you know? And that's
Right.
totally okay too.
You're more about I'm in the trenches. I'm living it, and I can help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have
totally.
North Node in Ophiuchus, so for me, it's like a life call. I've got to
Ooh.
I've got to dive into it and
Mhm.
understand it and express the truth. So, all right. Well, we've been going an hour. Let's see if we have another question here. What an incredible journey it has been to come back to watching you. Um, yes, talk about deprogramming. Yep. Um, you've been spot on and ahead of time to wow, honestly. Yeah, okay. No questions, no more questions. But yeah, it's nice that Michael stopped by. He also said there's a bunch of star family that we're connected as Mayans building pyramids or something Egyptian. There's like some kind of ancient connection there too with
Mhm.
the techno, the mega techno megalithic technology from the past. I
Yeah,
agree. I think
I
there's
agree.
definitely something there.
I think I definitely have some like Mayan style pastimes for sure.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
Okay. How's that whole eclipse retrograde equinox portal for you?
Um
Retrograde.
I have to like take it back a little bit. The like first set of eclipses in this sort of zone happened right on my descendant, the one with Chiron. And that's when I exploded my entire life and decided that I was going to come back to the city. I was living in an off grid cabin and I left my marriage and all of that. And I feel like from then to Eclipse was basically just dealing with the like actual integration of that, pretty much. And at this point, I just hope I'm done and ready to move forward at this point.
Oh, I'm
And
getting that. I'm definitely getting that from you. You're on fire right now, so
yeah, I
it's
hope so.
cool. I feel
I
like it
hope.
was just a portal, a singularity, a shift of
Mhm.
perspective, because all that energy was just converging in that
Mm.
one space, and it was slow. It was
Yeah.
really mystical and foggy, and I couldn't figure out where to pin myself down
Oh,
mentally,
yeah.
emotionally.
Honestly, like, anyone who's followed me for a long time knows that I am, like, fully upfront about the fact that, like, I struggle with Pisces energy sometimes. Something I've been thinking about a lot is this idea that, like, Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces, and
Mhm.
I always feel the desire for expansion while we're there, right? There's something bigger somewhere else that we wanna be, but the truth of Pisces is that like you just got to be in the spot you are and just
Mhm.
accept it. And it's almost like a trust gate almost because I find that like the things I dream up in Pisces season, I'll like dream up stuff that I never thought possible that'll suddenly arrive once we're out of it. But
Mm.
it's the like having faith to just like be wherever you actually are in the moment. It's uncomfortable. I find it uncomfortable, and which is also completely fine too.
Yes, to be uncomfortable in that uncomfortable spot
Right? It's
is
just
totally
that like
fine.
hanged man moment where you just have to be like, okay, this is what it is.
Yep. The
Yeah.
momentum is coming, but it felt like an inertial moment, where things are
Mm.
just stopping. Almost like
Mhm.
there's this they
So much.
describe how someone would look from an observer watching someone fall into a black hole. Like they slow down and they stretch out and then they stop, but you never actually see them fall into it.
Huh.
And that's kind of what it felt like to me, like, and then now we're
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, totally. And Mars is still in Cancer, so there's still a little bit of like sideways action happening too.
Okay. Yeah.
But if I could say one more thing,
Sure.
we've been talking a little bit about deprogramming, and I definitely, clearly, obviously think that the sidereal zodiac is the more accurate one, and on top of that, and it's a very useful tool. And on top of that, I think that the ultimate end goal is actually to escape all of it. And I think that's an interesting sort of juxtaposition, that it is useful to hold and to never, we run into troubles anytime we're identifying too terribly much with anything. And I think at the end of the day, like, the answer is going to be pure love. And I think that that is a frequency that you in particular hold
Oh,
very well. And that's really why I wanted to be a part of Stellar Foundations and everything that you've got going on, because you do that, like you said, you see the highest, and you are speaking the highest into the world. And thank you for that.
I don't think I have to even respond to that to make that a better statement. Thank you so much. That is so sweet. Oh my goodness. Yes, that's how you need to go forward with love. I mean, you're everything in that chart. You're every constellation, you are every planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's just broken down in a way for you to see those individual parts of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's a
when you get
character sheet, for
when
sure.
when you get to know your code, when you get to know that transmission aligned with the true sky, then you have
Mm-hmm.
something to work on and you can be a little bit easier on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, okay, I have a Cancer sun, so I'm a little gullible. Like, if you tell me a story, I'll probably Cancer Mercury too. I'll probably
Mm-hmm.
believe you. I'll probably be like, "Oh, that's so nice." And they'll be like,
Yeah.
"We're just kidding, Danny." You know? Um, so, I can be a little bit easier on myself when I fall into a gullible trap or gullible moment for sure, and not
Mm-hmm.
not ruminate over it. Just be like, "Okay, they got me." That's
Dang it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
good. Well, I have totally enjoyed our conversation. You
Me
and I need to get
too.
together and, record our teaching. So the way that this course I envisioned it was gonna go was
Mhm.
you and I would teach each other our techniques, and we'd have
Mhm.
those recorded modules ready for you guys to go, and then we'd have a live component where we bring in some of that practice. Because the
Mhm.
idea is you've already gone through at least some kind of material like Stellar Foundations or another program, and you're ready to do some really, in-depth projections for people. And so you get to read up everything that we did together, teaching each other, and then
Mhm.
we'll do it as a group, practicing together. So stay
Yeah.
tuned for that. Probably in
It'll be
June, we're gonna do
fun.
that, right? Yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
good. It'll be good. So we'll plan that. I'll reach out to you.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that is everything. Yep, no more questions. So I have
Okay.
such a great community. They're so sweet. There's not usually too many people causing trouble, so
Excellent. Well, thanks for having me today.
yes, I appreciate you. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and play the, intro as the outro. You're welcome to hang out and listen to it, or you can sign off, and we can check in through Facebook and email, okay?
Okay.
All right, you guys. Love y'all. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.